Hey, welcome to Happiness Bar. My goal is to share cocktails, content, and happiness. And today, we're making the first winter craft cocktail of the season. It's made with aged rum, Averna Amaro. We're making a duck fat-washed Grand Marnier and a Chinese 5-spice syrup. It's gonna be perfect for this winter season, for you to drink for your holidays. This cocktail is called the Dopest Eggnog you've ever had. Now, this recipe is technically a flip cocktail. All right, I'm calling it an eggnog because we are using a whole egg. It is super creamy. It is a cool kind of eggnog-esque cocktail, but technically it is a flip cocktail. And what a flip cocktail is basically a cocktail that has a whole egg in it. The yolk, the white, everything, right? It gets super rich, super creamy, so it does act very eggnog-esque, and it'll be perfect for your holiday season, man. We're in the first week of winter. All the holidays are coming up. It's gonna be a blast in this cool weather, man. You're gonna love it. So with all that being said, we got some prep to do today. We gotta make that duck fat wash Grand Marnier. We gotta make that Chinese 5-spice syrup. So let's go ahead and jump right into the prep work. All right, so the tools you're gonna need for the prep. You're gonna need a kitchen scale. You're gonna need a measuring cup. You're gonna need some cheesecloth or some straining apparatuses. You're gonna need some sealable storage containers. You're gonna need a pot. And you're gonna need a bar spoon or something to stir with. All right, guys, so the duck fat Grand Marnier. We've done this process before in some other episodes where we've done some fat washing. We're gonna follow the same process, except we're gonna do it with a little bit of duck fat, man. Super exciting, such a great flavor profile to mix in with that Chinese 5-spice and the rum, making it a really awesome, basically riff on an eggnog, man, a little flip cocktail. So, first thing we're gonna need our scale, and we're gonna need our measuring cup. All right, so we got our scale, we got our measuring cup. We're also gonna need our wide mouth storage container. So, my duck fat is already liquefied right now, okay? I picked this up from Sprouts. I believe you can also get it from like Whole Foods, maybe some other markets in your local area. So this duck fat's already melted down. If your duck fat is solidified or you had it in the fridge or anything like that, you're going to need to melt it down in a pot. Just put it over low heat and melt it down. I don't need to do that, so all I gotta do is measure out my duck fat and mix it up with my Grand Marnier. So I'm gonna turn my scale, oh, whoa, that is fragrant. Turn my scale on, I'm gonna place my container on my scale, make sure we zero that out, and we're gonna need 62.5 grams of duck fat. All right, 62.5 grams of duck fat. Seal that up, make sure you refrigerate that once you open it. All right, next I'm gonna measure out my 250 milliliters of my Grand Marnier. Now, this recipe will yield roughly, I'll say 12 to 16 Dopest Eggnog cocktails, depending on how much loss you have on the Grand Marnier when you filter it out. So if you're having a party, great. If you're not, you might want to cut this recipe in half. You're only going to be making a few. But anyway, yeah, 250 milliliters of Grand Marnier. Gotta get down on level. Make sure you really see that it's perfect. All right, 250 milliliters of Grand Marnier. And what we're going to do is mix that into our duck fat here. All right, so pour it into your container. Take this off the scale, and I'm just gonna take a spoon and I'm gonna really kind of stir this in really good, right? You wanna try to mix it in the best you can. You know, it will separate, that's kind of the nature. Alcohol being water-based, duck fat being fat-based. All right, so I got that stirred in pretty good. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do is let that sit out on your counter for about an hour, giving it a stir every 10 minutes or so. Once you reach that hour, you can go ahead and put your lid onto your container, make sure it's sealed up really good, and we're gonna put that duck fat Grand Marnier in the freezer for 24 hours. All right, so it's been 24 hours. We froze our duck fat washed Grand Marnier. Let's open her up to see how she did. Now, I'll tilt this forward a little. You can see all the duck fat is solidified on top, right? So what I'm going to do is grab another container, grab that bar spoon, so I can kind of pop this little disc up. And it's okay if you break it, right? Because we're gonna strain anyways, but look at that, man, how that froze up. That is so cool, right? So let me set that aside. break that in half actually so I can fit it in there. Now, even though that kind of froze so solidly, so nice, and guys, you can honestly reuse this, right? It's gonna have a little bit of that orange Grand Marnier note. Feel free to use this to cook something with, whatever you would cook duck fat in. Maybe some fries, Grand Marnier duck fries, man, I don't know, that'd be fucking nuts. Anyway, yeah, so they got the solid duck fat there. There still is some residual duck fat in here, so what we need to do is strain it out. So you're gonna wanna take your cheesecloth. I'm using a coffee filter, that's what I have on hand and I know it'll work. Ideally use cheesecloth if you can, it'll strain a little bit faster. This will take a little longer, but that's okay. And basically we're just gonna take this and gonna pour it into our filter. And you're just gonna let that strain through. So our duck fat Grand Marnier is straining, right? I'm gonna set that aside. And the next bit of prep we gotta do is we gotta make that Chinese 5-spice syrup. So let's grab our scale, let's grab a container. We're gonna place a container on that scale. Make sure you zero out that scale. And we're gonna weigh out 250 grams of Demerara sugar. 250 grams, and we're gonna just add that into our pot. Next, we're gonna place that back on the scale. We're gonna zero it out again, and we're gonna grab our Chinese 5-spice, and we're gonna weigh out 16.6 grams of Chinese 5-spice, so you can go ahead and just round up to 17 grams. Yeah, this stuff smells so good. Chinese 5-spice is a blend of star anise, cloves, cinnamon, fennel, black pepper. Come on. All right, so 17 grams. 17 grams of our Chinese 5-spice. All right, you're gonna add that into the pot with your sugar. Now we're gonna grab our measuring cup and we're gonna measure out 250 milliliters of water. Get down there level, make sure you're accurate. Boom, 250 milliliters of water into the pot. Now let's go ahead and turn that burner on to a medium-high heat. Grab our bar spoon again. We're gonna give that a stir. Really make sure you incorporate it really well because the spices will wanna float to the top, but that's okay. Just try to mix it in so you have no dry spices sitting on top. Make sure that sugar's incorporated. Now what we're gonna do is bring that up to a boil. Let that sugar dissolve, drop it down in temp to a simmer, and let it simmer for 30 minutes so those spices infuse. That looks good, man. Our Grand Marnier looks like it's strained all the way through. Grab a container just to get rid of this filter. And while we're waiting on our syrup here, I'm gonna go ahead and label and date. Throw this in a container. Label and date it. Get a container. Grab a lid. And guys, I would say the shelf life on this is probably up to about, oh yeah, it smells so good. Yeah, I'd say the shelf life on this is probably up to a week refrigerated, guys. Just because there is duck fat that was infused into there. I wouldn't keep it any longer than a week, you know? So make sure you're making small enough batches that you're gonna use it all and not waste any product. All right, so we've had our syrup simmering for about 30 minutes. We got everything infused. We've let it cool down a bit. You know, you wanna aim for letting it cool for maybe close to an hour, right? Next, we gotta strain it out. So go ahead and grab your cheesecloth, whatever straining apparatus you have. I'm using this weird sock thing I found because I can't find cheesecloth for some reason when I go to the store. But this thing I found works really well. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm just gonna pour it right in. Just let this bad boy go again. I used this in the last episode actually on the 2003 Tiger incident with the paprika syrup, and it worked wonders. All right, so we're just gonna let that strain. While that's straining, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my tape to label and date. And shelf life on this, guys, I would say is up to a month refrigerated. All right, guys, hey, once your syrup is strained, that is it for the prep work. Let's get into making some cocktails. Let's make the dopest eggnog you've ever had. So, this may not have citrus, but this is a shaken cocktail. It's a flip, there's an egg, right? We have to froth this bad boy up. So we're gonna be doing that wet shake, dry shake method that we've used. So we're gonna start with our shaker tin. And we're also gonna need our jigger. And lastly, we're gonna need our glassware. So, starting cheapest ingredients to the most expensive ingredients. We're gonna do a 1/2 ounce of that Chinese 5-spice syrup. 1/2 ounce of our duck fat washed Grand Marnier. 1/2 ounce of our Averna Amaro. 1.5 ounces of our aged rum. I'm using that Bacardi 5-year aged rum. And lastly, we're gonna crack a whole egg into this cocktail. Yolk and all, just make sure you don't get shells. All right, so this cocktail, kind of like making a whiskey sour in a sense. We're gonna do our wet shake first. Let's go ahead and grab our ice for our shaker tin. Ice that bad boy up, fill her all the way to the top with ice, seal it up, and we're gonna start by shaking for 12 seconds. "12 seconds. Crack that container. What we're gonna do is grab another large shaker tin, grab a Hawthorne strainer, and we're gonna strain that in to the shaker tin. All right, so we're straining out all that ice. We're making sure we get all that liquid. Get every bit, every drop. All right. And we're gonna do what's called a dry shake. What I like to do on my dry shake is take the spring off the Hawthorne strainer, throw it in there so it's something that agitates a little bit. You could also throw like a single ice cube in there as well. Basically, now we're gonna seal that up and we're gonna shake this time for 20 seconds. Ah, 20 seconds. Crack that container. Get all that goodness out of there. Grab the spring for your Hawthorne strainer. Grab both your basket and your Hawthorne strainer. And we're gonna double strain that cocktail as always. Look at the froth on that. Oh yeah. And lastly, for our garnish, we're gonna hit it with a few drops of Ango around the cocktail. And then grab something like a little toothpick and create a little design, man. Make a Jackson Pollock out of that motherfucker. And there you have it, guys. The dopest eggnog you've ever had. Let's taste. Excited, man. I haven't drank this cocktail in over a year. Get the Ango on the nose, right? That cinnamon really comes through. Yo, that's boozy. That duck fat and Chinese 5-spice just really meld together so beautifully. That bitter chocolatiness of the Averna Amaro, the aged note from the aged rum, the fattiness of that whole egg, man, it really makes it like an eggnog. It's a flip cocktail, whole egg. This thing is fucking fabulous. Dude, those Chinese 5 spices, the anise, the cinnamon, all that stuff, so tasty. That fennel. This is an excellent cocktail for your holiday season. So get ready, man. I hope you guys enjoy this. This is the dopest eggnog you've ever had. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed everything. Maybe you made this recipe along with me. Maybe you wrote it down, say for a later date. Either way, let me know how you're liking everything. And hey, guys, become a regular somewhere. Become a regular at your local watering hole. It's the best way to support local business. And become a regular here at Happiness Bar by liking, commenting, subscribing. Hit that bell if you want notifications. We got cocktail videos coming out every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern to get you ready for the weekend. Stay happy, everyone. Ooh.